Jai Prabhuji. Hello and welcome to the Retroprogressive Yoga Institute. My name is Radha Devi and I am a monastic disciple from the Ramakrishnananda Order. Here in the Retroprogressive Yoga Institute with my spiritual brothers and sisters, we are discussing, discovering, exploring in regards to the writings, different video conferences and books of Prabhuji. And in our case, we are blessed with the opportunity to explore the book Kundalini Yoga, The Power is in You. This is the book, and this is our class number 26. So we are very deep already in the different terms. Today is our last class of the series of classes of the Anahata chakra. So that's already the fourth center. We have 3 more from the main one, and then we're going to also speak about another one that it's shared on the book. So for whoever didn't get the book by now, it's very recommended to get it. These classes by no means replace the value that you're going to find in the book. Sometimes we take different sentences, different paragraphs, and from there we can build a whole class. So it's recommended to get the book. And also, if this is your first time here, it's also recommended to go to the previous classes so you can have a better understanding, more context of what are the things that we're going to be discussing today. We went through this journey getting to know this fourth center, which is the Anahata chakra, and some of the other names that it's very famous for, or you probably heard, is the heart center or the love center, the love chakra, because it is located in this area. And one of the main qualities that are going to be expressed through this center is the love. So that's why we focused in our first 2 classes in the definition of love. What is love? This that for so many is the most important in their lives. We spend so much time speaking about it when only few of us actually experience true love. So we understood why. We understood how Prabhuji is explaining us how this definition is going to be more related to the person that is defining it than an objective definition itself, because it belongs to the subjective platform. So that's why we also had different levels. It depends on the consciousness of the person, the state, the level of consciousness, and then the definition is going to express the level of awareness of the person that it's defining that it's love. Then we continue deepening, and in our previous class we spoke about many of the attributes of this center, and we saw the connection with the different organs that is related to the elements, the different stones, and we saw also how it's so connected with the sense of the touch, the hands, because of this receiving and giving. We saw we understood more why this center is so related with the balance, and we saw like it's a bridge between the lower centers and the higher ones. And today we are going to kind of wrap up all this information, all this wisdom that we've been sharing that comes from the book, and we are going to be deepening into what are the different symptoms in a psychological and in a physical level that we can expect when there is an unbalance in this center, and we will finalize sharing how it looks when it's actually balanced. But as we promised, we are going to deepen briefly in this last, in the paragraph that we share in regards to love that we find in the Ishavasya Upanishad in the mantra 8. And we took it because in our second class we took a turn when we were expressing the definition of love, and there was another text that we find in the Ishavasya Upanishad in regards to the love in the discipleship or in the disciplehood. And I felt that this text, it's complementing what we shared in the previous class, so I just wanted us to take a look at it and to see what are the things that, by my humble understanding, this can enrich all these classes that we've been discussing in regards to this amazing topic about love. So I want us to read it again. Believing ourselves responsible for the situations that we face, we look for the reasons for our supposed behavior. But it is impossible for us to identify the cause of love. I will say it in the purest style of Lao Tzu, Tao Te Ching. If you can identify the cause of love, you can be sure that it is not love. Love is invisible, and it only lets us perceive the consequences. Likewise, it is impossible to directly see spiritual awakening. We can only see the symptoms. The cause of enlightenment is unattainable. Some say God is love, and perhaps it is because neither have cause nor effect. The encounter between master and disciple is totally different from what we consider a relationship in the West. Relationships belong to the dual dimension. Cause and effect are part of a superficial relationship. Communion, on the other hand, is related to the spirit. Observing the master, we realize that something has happened to him or her, but we cannot say exactly what. The awareness and connection of what is happening in the master will produce a response within us. That response is not an effect, because the awakening of the master is not the cause of the disciple awakening. In the dimension of the soul, instead of cause and effect, there is simultaneous communion. Simultaneity can only take place with communion, and it manifests when you are synchronized with a phenomenon that inspires you, such as a sunset, the stars, a bird, or a smile. You become accessible and vulnerable to that phenomenon, and a response arises from deep within you. So, as I said before starting to share the text, I brought it because it is my humble opinion that it's combining different terms, concepts, and ideas that we shared in the past, and specifically during this series of classes in regards to the Anahata chakra. But also, I feel it's bringing and combining different things that we spoke in regards to the renunciation, in regards to surrendering, in regards to the vulnerability, and this phenomenon that we shared a few classes ago of the master-disciple relationship. And I feel that in this specific paragraph, it is explained with preciseness why it is not called a so-called relationship, a word that is more suitable to express or share what is actually happening will be communion. So this is why I'm bringing this text today, so we can have a clearer view of that text that we share in our second class of this series of the Anahata chakra, and also many terms that we've been using and that we are going to continue to use during these classes of this amazing path, this beautiful path of the Kundalini Yoga. So here we see that there is not a cost. And something that I want to mention before continuing is the fact that, again, we are taking a small part of a whole mantra that was built and that has certain order. And Prabhuji speaks a lot about how when he's expressing things, it's very important to bring the context in which they were expressed. And in this specific mantra, it's speaking about different qualities about the divine. And one of them is that is without cause. So this is why when we are expressing the words that are written here, he's mentioning that maybe that's why both love and God, they have no cost, because God is love. And we saw it also in one of the videos that we share about Prabhuji, where he's speaking about the unconditional love, that it says that God is love. So here we are connecting all the dots, all the ideas that we've been sharing. And in the same way, for me, it's very important to say that if you would like to deepening into what we're sharing here, it's important to go to the book and to read the whole mantra so you can have a better understanding of why it's brought like this. We are taking it to our class to enrich the things that we're saying, but I think it's also very important to mention, if you are interested in these topics, to go to the Ishavasya Upanishad, commented by Prabhuji, and you can find more about the specific topic. So I want us to go back to the text and deepen in a few more sentences. So one of them says that in the pure style of Lao Tzu Tao Te Ching, if you can identify the cause of love, you can be sure that it is not love. There is not a cause. And here I want to speak about something that we've shared many times and that we're going to continue sharing in regards to a technique or the sādhanā, the practice of the path, how we don't do it in order to get a specific result. We cannot manipulate the divine. There are certain things in life that we cannot do in order to get certain results, and the divine is one of them. The love is one of them. It's not that we can follow certain steps, certain method or a technique in order to receive something in return. And this is the case of love. There is no cause. And here it's explained more how this is happening. It also applies in the spiritual awakening, enlightenment, this fusion of the Shakti from the first center, which is the Muladhara, with Shiva in the seventh center, in the Sahasrara. It's a response. It's a natural, organic response with the practices that we follow. We only try to prepare ourselves as instruments to stand in the intensity that this fusion is going to represent, but it's not that we do A, B, C, and then we're going to have this spiritual awakening. So here it says how the spiritual awakening of the master, the spiritual awakening of the disciple, the cause is not the spiritual awakening of the master, but there is something that is happening. And here he's speaking about this communion. There is synchronicity. There is something simultaneously happening. And as a response from the depths of our being, and when we use the word being, something that when we use the word depths or interior, we're not speaking about a physical distance, but we're speaking more about a level of consciousness. So something that is coming from that awareness simultaneously in this synchronicity, then a response can bloom from it. But as we just mentioned, it's not something about cause and effect. And the other thing that I wanted to mention was in regards to the vulnerability, is also about besides this synchronicity and this simultaneously, we also need to be accessible for that phenomenon, to be able to penetrate us, for us to digest what is happening and allow this response to flourish from ourselves. But without that vulnerability, that accessibility, and this simultaneous alignment, then these things cannot actually flourish from the depths of our being. So this was our small study as promised in regards to this paragraph, and I hope it's clarifying more many ideas that we've been sharing. And I would like us to continue with our class of today, understanding more what are the different symptoms that are expressed through the balance or the unbalance of this center. And as we saw in our past classes, the fourth center is about balance. It has a healing power. We saw this connection with the immune system, and it's also intimately related to love. So this is going to be expressed in the way that this center works, and from what we learn, we can surely, I'm almost sure that you can imagine what an unbalanced Anahata chakra will look like. When we go to the direction of a blocked Anahata chakra, it's going to be expressed very evident in the way that we have our relationship with others. So many people can suffer from a blockage in the center, and I would like us to talk about how easy it is for this to happen from different experiences that we may have suffered in our childhood to something that happened maybe just a few minutes ago. What we are going to see, something that is undeniable, is that the influence of this center is very central. We saw that this is a bridge that resides between the three lower centers and the three higher centers, the gross and the subtle. We could say that this center, there is a lot of sensitivity, and that the situations of the life, that the way that we were treated, are going to be reflected with great relevance in this center. This is why it's so important. And then for that same reason, things that happen to us in our childhoods can embark us in a character, and then we live our life in that stage of defensiveness. Our fourth center will be blocked, and we live that way. But also different situations, as I mentioned, that can happen us in a daily basis can mean a blockage in this center. And for that reason, there is also many people that make it a daily practice in relation to this center in order for allow this center to be open. They understood the importance and the relevance of having this center open, so they make it a daily practice to connect to it and to allow the center to be open. Once we see how this center looked when it's also overloaded and when it's balanced, we are going to understand how important it is to actually keep it open, and so many disease and so many disorders that can be avoided when there is a healthy Anahata chakra. So different symptoms related to a blockage can be reflected in not being able to have intimacy. These are, for example, the people with problems with aggressiveness, with anger, or people that are very critical of others as well as of themselves. And at the same time, they are people who perhaps suffer from loneliness, and from that loneliness, then other diseases are produced. Like that's the cause of other diseases. So we can continue to explore more what are the different health problems that are going to be related to a blockage in this center. And as we appreciated in previous centers, we saw that it's always going to influence the organs that are located near to the center. So in this case, with the Anahata, it's going to be located at the height of our heart, in our chest area. So then you can have different respiratory problems or problems related to the heart, and also specifically to the blockage itself. It's going to be different diseases like asthma, or when we have like very tight breathing, also pain in the lungs. And when your heart center is blocked, also your physical center can be blocked. And this is going to result in, for example, heart diseases like a blockage in the arteries, and it can also lead to heart attacks. Something that is very important to clarify at this point is the fact that heart diseases or a heart attack is not directly proportional to this center being blocked. There are many other factors that can cause this type of heart disease, such as a genetic condition, different factors related to the environment where the person grew, or the environment where the person is living, different situations in life. We hear how so many times a heart disease can be caused because of stress. So the conditions where the person is living is going to influence in this. So the point here to clarify is the fact that blockage in the heart center doesn't mean you're going to have a heart attack. They are not directly proportional, and it happens the same with many other blockages or overloaded centers. An unbalance in a center is not related directly related to different diseases, but they might. So this won't be always the cause, but they might be the cause. This is why we always say that the practices and the different techniques that we shared and are going to be sharing more in the section of the sādhanā, they do not replace the health advice from a professional that you may need to treat different diseases. But continuing with people with a blockage in the Anahata chakra, they can also experience depression because of the loneliness and the isolation that we already mentioned at the beginning. So you have a blockage, you want to protect yourself. We saw how these people have different problems with relationships and building intimacy. So they will also kind of reject this relationship and to have intimacy with people. And because they are already isolated, they are isolating themselves, they are blocked, then they can develop different diseases, and depression is one of them with this underlying cause. In their body posture, I was doing it while I was explaining about the blockage, because they want to protect their heart. Then they can develop a hump in their back. They will have this hunch because they are always constantly with their shoulders dropped and the arms going towards the front, like trying to protect the area of the chest. They are not going standing in this way, but it's going to be more covering it, and they can develop this hunch in the upper back. This was in the physical level, we can say. And then we have, on a psychological level, a blockage in the Anahata chakra can be expressed in different ways. we already understood that these people, most of them will have different problems relating to others, and specifically problems with committing themselves. So these are going to be the type of people that may not be able to get married because they are afraid of the commitment, and it's going to come from the blockage in their feelings, in the love that they could express. So the reason that they are afraid to commit, which is opposite from the people that have an excess on the heart center, by the way, that they're going to have to tend to have these codependent relationships, and we're going to be speaking about it when we will get to the section of the overloaded chakra. But continuing with the blockage on the heart chakra, then these people reflect an attitude of criticism that keeps them judging others, and that is the reason that no one is enough. So they have this issue with commitment. No one is enough for me. They don't satisfy my standard, but it's the underlying cause is going to be the blockage on the heart center. And then they are going to be criticizing and judging everybody, but in reality they are mostly speaking about themselves. And in this type of relationship, the person with the blockage lives in a constant court where they judge themselves for their different behaviors, for the way they react to life situations, and then they project this self-criticism onto others. And they live more focused on the weaknesses and the mistakes that other people can commit than in the positive and what other people are providing. And in this case, we need to remember that we're speaking about an imbalance. And then this is the direction that the imbalance is taking. They are more focused, they are more attentive and directed to the negative, to the weak, to the lacks, to what is missing in the other person, and not providing this balance like, okay, yeah, this person can have different weaknesses and it can commit different mistakes, but that's not it. There are also different things that this person is contributing, it's providing. This person also have different strength, and then you can make this balance. But in this case, the person is more focused only in the negative part. And at this point, I would like us to better understand, now that we also just mentioned about the codependency, I want us to pass to how it looks when we have an overloaded force center, which means that there is an excess in the energy of this chakra. And because we remember that this center is related to love, the first question that can arise is there something like an excess of love? Is there a problem with having too much love? And is it possible to have an excess of love in the world? And I think that most of us will identify in a situation where there is a lack of love and never excess. It's usually a lack than an excess. And in an ideal world, we will prefer love to be in excess. And we could not imagine a situation where love is an excess. It's usually lacking. And I think then here at this point, while we're asking ourselves an excess of love, or trying to imagine a situation where there is an excess of love, then I think it's good for us to go back to what we've learned in regards to the different levels of love and all the definitions that we share in regards to it. And we saw these different levels, and I mentioned this here because I think we're not, when we speak about this excess of love, we're not speaking about this transcendental love, this unconditional love that we spoke about. but more of one of the lower levels, either emotional love or intellectual love, and even devotional love, which is not real love, but it's attachment, is still in the platform of objects and subjects. It's between two. And then what happens when it's still in this level? We have expectations, we have different demands, and because it's not actual love, it can be bothering, both for the person that is trying to give it and for the person that is receiving it. For example, if we imagine a situation between the love relationship between parents and their children, or we can say even a couple, how is this person that is attached, which is the one that is trying to give this excess of love, how does this clinging looks? Or the person in a relationship that tells you, I cannot live without you. You are my world. You mean everything to me. And we know about different situations where this is even threatening for the other person, and how they can use this so-called love in order to keep the person and manipulate the person. So this is the direction that an excess on this center can take. This is only one of the directions. It can be many others. But what we can see here is the fact that these extremes are not healthy. We, in this path, specifically in the Kundalini Yoga, we always strive for balance. And even in an excess of a self-called love, we can see the dangerous situations that this can lead us to. So in this case, that we are mentioning in regards to the love, the problem is not going to be an excess of love. On the contrary, we will continue to see, we continue exploring in regards to the topic of love in the other centers, and when we continue getting higher until reaching this realization of what we really are, that it's actually love, we will see that the person that realizes this, it's overflowing with love, but it's real love. And then the dangerous that can happen when it's still in this platform, in this dual platform, are not present. And when we will speak about when a person has this center balance, then we will also understand more what happens when a person it's actually realizes that the person is actually love. So in this specific issue that we are presenting, the problem is not an excess of love, and I will continue speaking to it about attachment, but this unbalance, what can happen, the situations that can develop when this center is unbalanced, and we let this center to dominate in regards to the others. Remember that we're trying to build a situation of balance, of alignment. We spoke about synchronicity not long ago. So the idea is to have all the centers open and balanced, not going to any of the streams or in a blockage or in an excess, but balanced, and then to allow all of them to express themselves and not just one dominating over the others. The other thing that can happen, specifically in this center, is this fact about giving and giving and giving, and how this can represent different risks for ourselves. We saw how this center is also connected to our immune system, and when we are just giving outwards and we don't meet our needs, this is going to weaken our immune system and can put us in a very vulnerable situation in regards to our health. Obviously, it's also affecting us emotionally, mentally, but now that I was speaking about the immune system, I'm more speaking about all the diseases that we can contract in this direction, that we're all only giving and not having this balance of also receiving and meeting our own needs. So all this that I just mentioned is going to represent different risks, both physically, mentally, and emotionally, because we need to remember that we are holistic beings with different aspects. We have different dimensions, and this imbalance is going to be expressed in all these levels. If we want to be more precise in how the fourth center that it's overloaded, it's going to express itself, what are the different health problems that we can develop, then we have that the different symptoms are going to be shown can include a low blood pressure. It can also be in an enlarged heart. The person can also suffer from fatigue, from depression, and can become self-neglect. And for example, these two that I just mentioned, we can also place them in a psychological level, but we are bringing them here in the physical part or section, because they are going to bring different symptoms in a physical level. When I'm speaking about the fatigue, or when I'm speaking about different issues in regards to digestion, losing weight, these are related to depression. When I'm self-neglecting myself, then it can lead to obesity, or it can lead to a lack of hygiene. So they are expressed in a physical level. Continuing with the physical level, women that have an excess of energy in the heart chakra can develop problems related in the chest area. So they can have different problems in their breast, like cyst, breast pain, and they may even develop cancer. So we spoke about this behavior of giving, and giving. The woman is so focused on trying to, it can be related to many different causes, but usually they're trying to fulfill this lack that they feel by giving to others. And for example, the mothers with different newborn can even develop mastitis, this disease that is related to nurturing the child, because they are just so focused in their energy outwards, they don't take care of themselves, and then they can develop this different disease. And we just mentioned the very unfortunate one, that is cancer. At the level of the body posture, this one for me was very curious, because the chest is going to be forward, and I'm sure we can imagine a lot of people that go with their chest forward. And the difference between this posture and one that has actually all the centers aligned is the fact that even though the center is going forward, the head, it's a little bit backwards. So it's like something more like this, and you can see how it is expressed in this area, like I am vulnerable, or that I'm giving my heart to anyone that can that will want to receive it. And you can feel this vulnerability, and it's very different when all the centers are aligned. Like when we are, if you went to a hatha yoga class, when someone is teaching us the tadasana posture, that we want to imagine like a thread is coming from the Sahasrara chakra until the Muladhara, and everything is aligned. In this case, the heart center is going forward, and then all the other ones are more backwards, and it's representing this vulnerability and this extreme exposure or accessibility that we would like to we are giving in excess. So continuing with the different problems that can be developed, but now on a psychological level, we see that we saw how, or we commented how these people are in this constant giving, but this giving can also be expressed in this excessive attachment that we just mentioned, and over time can make or push the person to leave you. We're speaking now in regards to a relationship, a loving relationship with a partner. So the person with an excess in this center is going to be giving too much. And what are the reactions that the person that is receiving this on the other end can have? It can create trust issues. It can create certain defensiveness because the other person is asking themselves, what's going on, what this person is trying to compensate, why this person is not giving me my space. The person has different trust issues, and it can push the person until the point that the person is just going to end the relationship itself because it cannot continue with this type of dynamic. And on the other hand, there is the one that is going to stay in the relationship, but because the one that is giving in excess is not satisfied. Remember that we spoke how the person is not satisfied. The other is never enough. The person can start building these feelings of resentment, of anger, because he's not receiving the amount of love or the amount of care or attention that he wants or she wants to receive. And the thing is that there is a lot of issues in regards to communication here, because I fear that you will leave me. I do many things in order to keep you around me, but I also don't say the things that I don't like because I am afraid that you will leave me. So there is this very confusing dynamic around this person because he's trying to do so many things to please you, but at the same time he's building this resentment and anger feelings towards you, and he's not telling you what's happening, and tries to act like everything it's okay because of the fear that you might leave them. So here something for me very interesting happens in relation to the codependency that we mentioned at the beginning, because what we see here is a relationship of codependency. And we're going to explain very soon what codependency means. But what we see is that in order for this relationship to actually happen, we need two types of profiles. We need the dependent person and the one that likes to be in this type of relationship with where another one needs to depend from themselves. And here we can see a combination, for example, of this one, the one that is codependent and needs to give. It has an overloaded force center, and we can see that or this is one of many situations that the other one might be in the profile of one with an overloaded third center. Remember that the third center, the Manipura, it's related to power, to control. So then when these two profiles meet, you have the perfect combination for this type of relationship to actually happen and to develop. One with different insecurities, that needs to give in excess, and one that is willing to accept it and to continue in that type of relationship because it's hungry for that power and control over the other person, and this other person is willing to go through it. So we see how it's necessary to have these different qualities, and in this case we're speaking about the centers, in order for this type of relationship to develop. So now that we were just speaking about the codependency, there are two terms that I would like us to explore related to an overloaded love center in the psychological level. And the first one is the martyr complex. And I'm sure that many of you are familiar with this one, which is sometimes used as a synonymous of victim. It is those people who suffer and sacrifice themselves on purpose, often to help others or because they are on a charitable cause, but they are usually trying to get the attention through this method. They need to receive attention from others, and the best way that they use is sacrificing or helping others, and they put themselves in these different situations in order to usually have the victim position. This is how they live in the world. This is the martyr complex, which is related to this overloaded center, this giving that we spoke about. And actually, now that I mentioned this is like while I was researching in regards to this center, you see how different professions like nurses, officers, people that run different non-profit organizations, this is the profile that fit in this type of center, this overloaded center. And if they don't have it, they can develop it because of the nature of the profession that they are executing. Now we can actually speak more about what codependency is. And the first thing that I would like to note in relation to codependence is that it's not a disorder that we can find in the DSM, this manual that we mentioned a few times already, when we mentioned, for example, the different personality disorders like the narcissistic ones, and we used it also to share different disorders. So this one is not found in that manual. So we can say that it's more an emotional and behavioral condition where the person who suffers from it does not have a healthy and mutually satisfying relationship. And it's interesting that we pay attention to the word mutually satisfying. This is usually what happens in a normal, healthy relationship. There is mutual satisfaction, but we saw this martyr complex and we saw this excessive giving. So one of them is giving in excess, and it's not saying anything about it, so it's not mutually satisfying. One person, the one on the other side, might be happy, satisfied with that type of behavior, but one of them is not. And also in regards to this mutual word, is the fact that when speaking about codependency, we can compare codependency relationship and interdependence relationship, where the interdependence is healthy, is still a dependence. And here we see something that we saw many times during our classes and in others, how a term that can many times be seen on a negative way is not actually negative, but depends on the amount, it depends on the intensity and this balance that we always speak. So in a healthy, normal relationship, there is dependence. There are two people that depend from each other. they support each other, but this interdependence is healthy, which is very different from someone that is codependent, that is giving themselves in excess, and they depend completely from the other person. So what I wanted to clarify here, that there is a healthy level of dependence, and then we have the codependency where this dependence is on in excess, and then it becomes unhealthy, and we can use this term with the negative connotation. So this specific term was used more frequently in the past to refer to relationship in which one of the person in the partnership suffered from an addiction. So it doesn't need to be a love relationship from partners like a husband and a wife or boyfriend and girlfriend, but it can be also parents and their children, and then one of them is the addict to certain substances. It can be alcohol, drugs, or food. And then the codependent one that is pleasing the other and allowing the other to have this addiction. And here we have what we call the enabler. So just to bring an example, those people that are overweight, that are obese, that are more than 500 pounds and they cannot even move, they need someone else to provide them what they need in order to continue in that addiction, in that condition. In this case, we're speaking about food, but it can be also different addictions to other things like drugs or alcohol. So what happened with the enabler is that he's performing actions or doesn't perform actions for the addiction to continue. They love the other person so much that they don't want to bother them, they don't want to upset them, and in their mind they really think that they're doing the right thing, helping the other to continue with this addiction. And we see many times in the case of obesity, the person can be suffering from many different health conditions, and the other person cannot stop. And this is why we saw earlier how it needs to be this combination, and we're speaking in regards to balances and unbalances in centers, in order for this combination to actually happen, this enabler and the addicted person. So we see how this is just a small glimpse of how difficult and how complicated the different disorders related to the heart center can be. So something else that I wanted to note is, what is the difference of the codependency with one disorder that we actually find in the DSM, which is the disorder of a personality, dependent personality disorder. And the difference is that in the dependent personality disorder, the person is dependent of the others in general, and in the codependency is a very specific person or a specific persons. But in the other one, in the disorder itself, it's in general to everybody. And also a main difference is, one, it's recognized as a disorder in the DSM, and the other one isn't, even though there are different health professionals that support that the DSM will recognize the codependency as a disorder. In the last revision, which is the fifth one, they don't recognize it as a disorder, but it's a condition, a health condition. So we just mentioned a few of many other disorders and conditions that can be developed related to this center. And what I would like us to do is, as usual, to summarize and to see the table where we just see the different symptoms in the different aspects and levels. So at the physical level, when the fourth center is blocked, we may present respiratory difficulties, heart-related disease, chest area problems, chest pains, and lung problems as asthma or pain on the lungs. And the opposite, when it's overactive or overloaded, then we have blood pressure issues, fatigue, different problems in the breast in women, also heart disease problems, and we can develop a disease like depression. Then in the psychological level, when it's blocked, we have difficulty with intimacy, we have excessive aggression and anger, constant self criticism, and also to others. There might be loneliness and isolation, and different low self-esteem issues and different complexes. When it's overloaded, we have excessive attachment, we have a lack of emotional boundaries, we can develop the martyr complex or codependent relationships, and there can also be a lack of self-care. Something that is important to remember is that chakra health and the balance is a holistic and multifaceted approach, and not all the above symptoms necessarily apply to everyone, as we explained in regards to the heart attack and the blockage on the heart, and that health problems can also have multiple causes. In addition, the practice of yoga, the practice of different healing techniques can help with the balance on the chakras and improve the overall health, but they should not be considered substitutes for proper medical care. This is a very relevant and important point for me to note. The practices and the things that we're sharing here by no means replace the professional medical health that you might need in the path of the Kundalini yoga. We are aiming for moksha, self-realization, enlightenment. This is what the path is aiming to. We already explained the difference of a cause and effect, and how we're just preparing ourselves as instruments. And yes, there are going to be different symptoms, and there are different things that are going to happen in all the different bodies. We saw this is how we began with the 5 koshas, the different dimensions that we have bodies, the karana sharira, the stula sharira, the different shariras, the different sheets that we have. And our practices and the things that we're going to do are going to affect all of them. But just to mention again, they are not going to replace medical assistance that we might need for different disease or different symptoms that we may present in our daily life. So now that we saw with thoroughness how this unbalanced chakra can look, it's time for us to see how it can look when it is functioning, when there is a balanced functioning of the chakra. And for that, I would like us to read what we find in the book. When this center is open, it brings security in relationships, sensitivity, sympathy, confidence, love for oneself and others, kindness, helpfulness, flexibility, health, balance, liveliness, optimism, enthusiasm, warmth, inner peace, and harmony. When this center interacts harmoniously with the other centers, we are transformed into a welcoming nexus that harmonizes people around us. We radiate amiability and bestow natural joy and warmth that can open the hearts of those around us. So in this paragraph, we see the power of the balance on this center. but it also tells us when it's in harmony with the others. So the others are important ingredients in this recipe that we've been sharing in regards to the Kundalini yoga. And just to note again how important is the balance in all of them, and the difference and the danger with one of them, it's in excess, as we saw how dangerous can turn when the heart center is in excess. When all of them can be in excess or in blockage, there is danger, and the aim is to have all of them balanced, and how powerful this one can be when it's in harmony with all the others, how we can be this nexus and even open the hearts of others that are around us. And just to enrich what we just read, I want to read something that we find before also in the book, that it's explaining in regards to what happens when this center is open. And it says, people who purify the center discover their capacity to love. They cease to be beggars of love and become channels that pour out love. They reveal Anahata Chakra as the center of love in its highest expression. They harmonically draw in everyone who is close to their aura and inspire them to love. This center is the soil where the seed of devotion is planted and cultivated until it grows and reaches the heights of divine love as prema and parabhakti. The scriptures affirm that by focusing our attention on this center, it is possible to realize the very essence of our existence. Anahata Chakra is considered the seat of the divine self, or Atman. Patanjali Maharishi says, Hridaye Chitta Sambit. Focusing attention on the heart leads to knowledge of the nature of consciousness. This is in the Yoga Sutras 3.34. Within the limits of the first three chakras, we are waves that are born, hold on for a while, and meet our end when we weaken and arrive at the shore. To awaken Anahata is to discover our oceanic nature. This center is a getaway that provides direct access to our universal aspect, the self. So here we see one more time express and the connection of everything we shared. Remember in our previous class we were speaking about this consciousness, this also the Ananda Kanda, the fulfilling wishing tree, and everything that happens in this center. And now we can realize our true existence and this expansion of consciousness that can happen from this center that is only the fourth center. We will continue to discover what can happen in the higher centers, and I want to leave you with a lecture of Prabhuji where he's speaking. The title of the lecture is Living from the Heart, and I think it's also connecting the dots of the many ideas that we've brought in regards to this center. And he's speaking about living from the thoughts or even emotions that are temporal, because when we speak about living from the heart, it is important that we don't confuse it with an emotion that is temporal. It's something that is not permanent. It comes and go. But we're speaking about another dimension that, as it says here in the book, it's this getaway, this door that can lead us to this infinite love, to this transcendental love that we spoke in our previous classes. So he's going to bring us the difference from living from the thoughts that are very limited to actually start to live from the heart. Thank you so much for joining us today. Jai Prabhuji.
We live too much through the mind. We live this life situated in the mind. When you live in the mind, that means, to live in the mind means the consciousness, the infinite consciousness, flow through the head. Consciousness has no form. It's a space, unlimited space, without form. A conscious space. Consciousness takes the form of whatever she becomes in contact with. It's like the water. When you put water in a bottle, the water takes the form of the bottle. If you put water in a glass, the water takes the form of the glass. Or whatever you put the water takes that form. So consciousness is like that. So when you live through the head, when consciousness flows through the head, consciousness takes the form of thoughts. And thoughts, are something so small and pass so quickly, so small that try to understand the infinite consciousness take the form of something very, very, very small. And that is the way you perceive the world. You live in such a way that closing this head, look at reality through the senses, through small holes, and think about the world. Thoughts arise about what you perceive, and the consciousness takes the form of that thoughts, and that is your relation with reality, these thoughts. And when you live in the head, you can meditate in the head, but meditation is a thought. You can try to look for peace in the head, but that peace is a thought. That is the reason that somebody come to you and destroy your peace in a moment, because your peace was not real shanti, was an idea about peace. You have conclusions about God, concepts about enlightenment, ideas about spiritual life, but you don't touch God, enlightenment, or spiritual life, or the reality. You have a concept about reality, no? An idea about life and about love. But when you live in the head, when you live in the mind, you have a fundamental, basic idea or thought, conclusion, belief about yourself. That is the main problem. Is the basis of all the problem. Because you don't perceive yourself as you are. That means you don't live according to what you really are, but you live according to what you think you are, or according to the idea you have about yourself. That is a thought, I. And that is liberation. What is enlightenment? What is liberation? You have the light to see what? To see yourself as you are. Liberation from the belief you have about yourself. That is enlightenment. That is liberation. That is all the thing. So, but you cannot conceive to live life in a different way. To be, in this place, and from here you meditate. And when somebody comes to you and say, the way is vicharana, ask yourself who you are. What you do? You ask in your head, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And then you have the answers. I am a doctor. I'm a Chilean. Yeah, the same stupid that was before. You answer yourself. Say, how I cannot? Who is God? You say, people say, I ask myself so many questions. Who is God? What is beyond death? What is this life? But the answers are more thoughts. Means even with the answers, you continue to live in your head. And the question is not to have new answers or different answers in the head. The question, spiritual life, is how to fly beyond the mind, not to allow consciousness to flow only through the head. Try to imagine if you, instead to be in the head, because in the head it's so difficult not to be in the head. In the head you have all the ways to perceive the world. The eyes, the ears, the tongue, the nose, everything. But try to imagine for a moment that you don't live in the head, you live in the hara, in your belly. When you learn martial arts, especially karate, you learn to be in the hara, to move from the hara. It's a little curious in the beginning, a little weird how we can, because you want from the head, you want to protect your head, you want to give to the other one in the head, and because the head is all the thing. You fight with the head, yeah, everything. When you want to be beautiful, you begin from the head. Everything you do from the head. When you love somebody, you look at the head. Everything happens in the head. And when you go to practice martial arts, they tell you, be in the hara, in the belly. How I can be in the belly? You never protect. But that means when you are in the belly, it's like in the head you have a television working non-stop, and a radio all the time. Blah, 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 thought. If you descend to the first floor, the television continues, but you are not there anymore. Means you hear something, but it's more silence. There is no fear. You go. Try. See it in the belly. You feel it. You can do it. You can do it, no? Try to imagine that you can situate yourself in the heart. But that is the reason Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha, first of all, relax the mind. Relax the mind. It's go together. You cannot. There are people who say, relax the mind, relax the thoughts, and don't think. Almost succeed. But the mind come back. Because it goes together. Relax the mind, but open your heart. Karma yoga, give to others, bhakti yoga, love. Open the heart, expand your heart, and situate in your heart. Try to imagine that you are situated in your heart. And better than that, situate in the heart. Be in the heart. The head will say, where in the heart? The pomp, where in the heart? No, here. The place where you say, I, me. I am. The soul knows. I. When you say that, believe me, me. When you say, I love, you feel the presence of your being. This is the center. From the heart, you can look and see life in a totally different way. Consciousness flow very expanded. It's like an expansion of the consciousness. Before that, through the head, is like you touch a minimum, one drop of life in a moment. And you all times feel dissatisfaction because I need more life. But only a small drop, a small thought. From the heart you expand. Consciousness flow freely. Things like life, love, in the head, nobody knows. In the head you can write poems about love. And you ask people, you know what is love? Well, love, the head don't know what love is. The heart know what love is. You don't explain it because the heart don't need to explain it. But you can say, this heart know what love is. He experienced it. He live it, he enjoy it. He enjoy it, he drink it, he was there, he experienced love. The poor head don't know what love is, what you talking about. Yeah, the head can write poems about love. The head can write novels about love. Can write songs about love, but to explain what love is, you don't know what love is. The head don't know what is love. The heart, this happens to him. So heart know what love is, what life is, and the heart you can ask, who am I? The head you ask, who am I? The head tell you, you are a Chilean, you are a Hindu, you are Israelian, you are a doctor, you are a teacher, you are a father. But I don't have more information, means that is what I have in memory of what the heart, when you put the question, who am I? The heart discovered that I, who am I? The answer is in the question itself. Who am I? The one who asks. Me, this presence, now and here. The heart is a door to consciousness. It's not the last point, it's the door. Begin by look at life from the heart, not only from the head. From the head you look life with competition, with jealousy, with so much ambition, egocentric look, with this thought, I, without compassion. When you look at life from the heart, you look at life in a totally different way. Where you look at life with such an acceptance, with such love, with such understanding, with such compassion. Look at your enemies from the heart, and you will begin to see a person that is not totally negative. You begin to see a presence that have many different aspects. So it's not the last place, but look at life from the heart. And yes, is the beginning. It's a very good beginning. Meditate, but don't meditate anymore in your head. At least begin from your heart. And in that meditation, one day can happen that you will open your wings and you will fly into that infinite space, conscious space of light. That is what you really are. And when you will fly into consciousness, you will realize that you are that infinite conscious space, and you will see consciousness flow simultaneously through the head to the heart, through the hara. But it's a process that we call it spiritual life. It's a process. Enjoy the way. Don't run after goals. Enjoy the process, enjoy the way, and especially enjoy it in the heart. Begin by very simple practice. Dance. Do things that you cannot do them in the head. You can do them, but it's not real. Try to dance and be situated in the heart. Dance. Laugh, like Lila and Govinda can teach you to laugh in the heart. Laugh in the heart. Dance in the heart. Run here in the forest. Life don't need to change, but you can change the quality of your view to life. That is what will change the quality of your life. The trees will be the same, people will be the same, but you will look at them in a totally different way, and you will understand that more important than what happens is what happens make in you, how you perceive it.